Hey guys, so with the upcoming release of the live-action How to Train Your Dragon film, I've had the sudden urge to rewatch the original films. So in this video, I'm going to review and rank the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy. And if the demand is very high, when the film eventually comes out, I will do a review of the live-action film. So let's just jump right into the first film in How to Train Your Dragon. So, here is the first movie. In my personal opinion, I think it's probably the weakest of the trilogy, while still having the greatest scenes of the trilogy with the test flight, Stoic and Hiccup's argument, the first big battle of the trilogy. I sort of like it, but I think the film it's setting up and building things such as Toothless and Hiccup's relationship can sometimes bore me, as obviously it's the first one, you have to have the foundation. Another thing I very much do not like is the romantic relationship between Hiccup and Astrid. I get it, they need to have this couple for the trilogy, but it feels like a classic Disney forced relationship. Even though it's not Disney, it's DreamWorks, but it feels like they didn't really want to do it, but they have to adapt the books, and I've read the books, obviously, and I get it, they're together in the books, but I think they could have less done it. I don't know how to phrase it. They could have made it less feel forced and more gradual. But I think it gets better in the next film, but I'll get to that later. When it comes to the main villain of the film being the Red Death, this monstrous dragon, I personally think the Red Death isn't the core antagonist of the film, despite him being in scenes of the films like the dragon nest, him having this imposing atmosphere. I think the main antagonist is more the theme of the film connected to Hiccup's father, Stoic the Vast, with Stoic wanting Hiccup to be something when he's older that he really isn't. Hiccup's not this Viking dragon slayer. He's never represented as this fierce warrior, and you get that in the film. For example, my personal favourite scene of the film is the argument between Hiccup and Stoic, where after Stoic captures Toothless during the final test in Hiccup's dragon slaying training, part of the film. The scene is so powerful and creative. How Hiccup has this upper hand of the argument, saying no, do not harm Toothless, and the colour in the scene just gets really light, and it's just so impactful. But due to Hiccup's father Stoic's powerful position in the film, the scene gets darker and darker, just to show that Hiccup doesn't have the upper hand in this film, and he is outnumbered by his age, basically. And eventually, with the sound of the door, he says stuff Stoic says things like, "Oh, you're no son of mine," and that sentence is so powerful because it makes Hiccup feel like he is worthless. He has nothing without Toothless, but he has these friends, and that's what the final act of the film is. So, I honestly, as I've said, I don't really like the relationship between Hiccup and Toothless at the start of the film. It gets better onwards, because obviously it's the foundation of their friendship which evolves over the trilogy. I honestly think it gets better in the next film, like so many stuff does. But overall with this film, I think I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I believe this is a great start to a tremendously crafted trilogy. Well, it doesn't really focus on adapting the books, because lots of stuff are changed from the books to the film. But I still find this film the hardest to rewatch, because it's a hero's journey film with dragons. So it's really hard to rewatch it, but I overall think the film is really good. So yeah, that's my opinion on the first film. Let's go into How to Train Your Dragon 2. So, How to Train Your Dragon 2, second installment in this trilogy. And surprisingly, I actually really like this movie. I sound like an idiot for saying that because it's regarded as the weakest of the trilogy. I'm really not sure why I have such a large fondness for this film, and as I've said, considering how it's depicted as the weakest of the films, in many reviews, people say it's just the worst of the trilogy. Well, it's not considered horrendous, but the thing is, I didn't see this film when I was younger. I only saw the first film, and I think I saw the third film when it came out. So I really didn't know much about this one until I watched it recently, actually, for the first time. And I don't know why, but I just really liked it. Because the main things I was criticising about the first film earlier, they really just changed. So, for example, the normal things, the things they changed for this film is the Hiccup and Astrid relationship. It feels less forced, like I was comparing it to Disney earlier. And actually they have chemistry and actual normal moments together, which feels like a necessary thing, but they actually have this connection that you can relate to type of thing. You can see why they would be together. Another thing I criticised earlier was the Toothless and Hiccup friendship. But in this film, their friendship goes even deeper. Near the final act, where Toothless gets controlled by the main villain, Drago Bloodfist. And Hiccup stands for up to his fans, which is so powerful. And as I said about Astrid and Hiccup, you can relate that you would, if you have a friend you've known so long, and you see the gap between the first film and the second film, you can tell that they are good friends, they get along so well. The first scene you have them in, they're just flying through the sky with this beautiful song, Where No One Goes, is just playing in the background. It's so powerful, and you feel so good when you see these characters. On a narrative point of view for this film, the story for this film is the weakest out of the trilogy. But I think the good array of characters distract you from this poor plot. When it comes to the main villain in Drago Bloodfist, I believe that his plan fits the movie. His plan basically is to control all dragons and to basically conquer the world. And it is like the normal villain plotline, I want everything. While it is ridiculous, he is very imposing and intimidating throughout the film. And like his first scene, besides the flashback that Stoic says early in the film, the first scene where he's just on his boat, you have this score in the background and you have this imposing threat. Despite his scream that he makes that is really memed upon, you still feel intimidated and you get why certain characters would fear him. I think that's clever. The key scenes I like about this film mainly are the two battles during the course of the film. One of them being the Battle of the Bewilderbeasts, the Alpha fight. Drago commands it. It's mainly the music. This music in this film is just top notch. Toothless versus the Alpha near the end of the film is also really good. Another two scenes that are great is Stoic's funeral. It is such a Viking-esque funeral and send off for a character, and it is emotional. It is a sad scene. And Hiccup confronting Drago after the Bewilderbeast battle, I think is a nice scene because you see the contrast between the protagonist and antagonist, where you see Hiccup saying dragons are not bad, and Drago says they are just a weapon he can use, and you see the contrast. I would say that you see the contrast with villain and hero in the next film, but we'll get to that later. This movie, honestly, I find the most rewatchable in the trilogy, as I find the plot, despite me thinking the plot is a little bad, and it has some story aspects such as Hiccup's mother's introduction, that I'm still mixed on to this day after I've seen it many times. But I'll still give this movie a 6.5 out of 10. It's an improvement over the first film, but I still think it has some bad elements that lowers my score, but still an elevating film that you just gets you into the story and introduces you again to this wonderful world that has been created. So that's the second film. Let's go to How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. Okay then, we've made it to the final film of the trilogy. I think on a narrative level, this is by far the best of the trilogy. This story is about the characters growing up and letting go, which I find to be very relatable and meaningful and very moving. I saw this film when it came out in 2019, and then I've seen it, I think, twice. Two more times after that. I saw it once when it was on TV and just once in preparation for this video. And it's when I think it's better to see it less because you find it even better to watch. So let's just dive into the film. So when it comes to the main villain in Grimmel the Grizzly, he is by far the most intimidating and actually good villains of the trilogy. Well, I have praised Drago Bloodfist earlier in this video for being intimidating. Grimmel the Grizzly just tops that. When it comes to our main characters, especially in Hiccup, you see the contrast between Grimmel and Hiccup. Because you see Grimmel the Grizzly had basically the same backstory of Hiccup. He shot down a Night Fury, but instead of Hiccup not killing Toothless, he killed the first dragon he captured, basically. So, when it comes to Toothless in this film, obviously he has a step up in his role in the story. Toothless having a romantic relationship with the White Night Fury, I think, is a very good idea, as it goes along with the theme of the film being moving on and growing up, and that goes for Hiccup and Toothless, because Hiccup's going to get married with Astrid, and that happens at the end of the film, and Toothless finds a relationship with a Night Fury. I think by far this film is the best of the trilogy. It has the most closure to a franchise, and I'm glad that they've not done I know they did that Homecoming film, that Christmas-esque one, but that was a short film. I'm glad they didn't do a fourth one. When it comes to overall, the trilogy is just well crafted. It's brilliant. I love it. But I believe that the ending for this film is so well done. You get this sense of closure to a franchise that's been going on for 9 years. And I think the scene, because of the nature of it, that Grimmel the Grizzly wins, he forces Hiccup to let go of his dragons. The whole of Burke lose their dragons at the end because they go to the hidden world, because they know if they keep them, they will be hunted and hunted until they lose them. So I'm going to say this now, 7 out of 10, the best crafted film of the trilogy. Let's get into the ranking. So, in third place, I'm going to put How to Train Your Dragon 1. By far the weakest of the trilogy, in my personal opinion, but still a great film. In second place, I'm going to put the second film. How to Train Your Dragon 2 had some elements that they improved on from the first film, but it's not the best of the trilogy. And in first place, I'm going to put this film, How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. It's by far the most well-crafted of the trilogy, and I very much enjoy it. So that's pretty much it. That is the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy, reviewed and ranked. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is the first video in the FTR era of the channel. So I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye now.